Alright guys, so today we're at yet another stretch of the Alafia. This is called South Prawn Alafia. This is the property that's owned by Southwest Florida Management District. And if you carefully watch my promo for the channel, believe it or not, I filmed the drone taking off right here about, I don't know, almost 10 years ago to this point. This road is quite popular for the bikers, as you can see in the background over there. I actually take my scooter there almost every single weekend, and it's a very beautiful ride. So to get you an idea of what this is all about, this is a part of the equestrian corridor. A lot of properties on the other side of the road, they're owned by rich people that have a whole bunch of horses. And so the Alafia State Park is popular for horseback riding. I'm on mountain biking, hiking, and camping, and that sort of stuff. But there are a lot of horseback riding trails. And there's a cut through across this road to go here. So if you do the full stretch, if I'm not mistaken, this is like 7 or 8 miles or so. Today, obviously, we're not going to do 7 or 8 miles. We're just going to do a quick little short loop. Probably around 3 miles or so. This is going to be mostly out in the sun, which is the reason why I'm number one wearing a hat, and number two I'm actually wearing my camo kayaking sunscreen with a UPF protection. Reason being is because I really am partial to using sunscreen. If I could help avoid putting all that crap on top of me, I'd go out of my way, which is the reason why on my kayak, if you watch my videos, I have bimini covers, and it's just easier that way, I think. Alright, so they said that the trails are very well marked, and so far I have not seen a single marker. Oh, okay. A good example. Okay, technical glitch with the camera. So what I wanted to cover here was to talk about the Spanish moth thing. You know, I've been talking about it in previous videos. This is a prime example of it. It just pulls the tree down. Not exactly the best thing for the tree, that's for sure. Well, I guess we got to see the first sign right here on the ground. Toppled over. So as always, with respect to the hike, bringing lots of water with me, 6 bottles worth. Never pays to be careful, and just keep drinking and sipping, as they say. We're fixing to get another thunderstorm just like yesterday, which, by the way, arrived about I don't know, like two and a half hours too late. So I could have stayed out on the trails a little bit longer. But when it did come down, it was gnarly. So today it's pretty much the same thing. It's still cogitating and thinking about it. And the soil is kind of damp from uh, the previous day. Let me check the map while I'm out here, just to be sure. I don't want any shenanigans, if you know what I'm saying. I guess I'm doing it in reverse. That's what I'm doing. Alright, no big deal. Whether you do circle one way or another way. So the difference between before and now is all of this pretty much entirely is upland. We're going to be reaching the river in a couple of places, possibly, maybe. But other than that, this is all uplands. So as such, I'm really hoping we're going to avoid mosquitoes and everything that comes along with it. But here we got to see typical scrub and shrub for Florida. And actually, if you pay attention, off in the background, I would not be surprised if there's a deer frolicking about. In this part, back when I used to mountain bike, before the accident, a little bit south of here, I used to see tons and tons of deer. So since this is kind of sort of connected, I wouldn't be surprised either. And they're a little bit less skittish because there are people out here. Interesting. So we're coming across. The problem is there's no that's the cut through. Okay, you know what? We may have to take it on the way back because that road is. Alright. Talking to myself here. Like I said, this is the so-called marked trails are not marked in the slightest. There's supposed to be blue blazes posted, and so far there's not a single one. Disappointing, I know, but yeah, just kind of go along with the process, I suppose. It looks like a park ranger was out here not that long ago. You could see vehicular tracks in the grass. Oh, this brings me some memories. I used to go flying my drones way back in the day in areas just like this, just coming out where nobody bothers me and just launching. Oh, look at this tree. Wow. You know what I find particularly interesting about this is, here we are in the middle of the zombie apocalypse that's been going on, and resurgence of epidemic because people can't follow basic guidelines. They think that it doesn't apply to them, right? Oh, look, pretty flower. And I'm out here all by myself, away from all that craziness, away from hustle and bustle, just me and the outdoors. And the thing is, this is like literally right off the road. You could literally pull out your car and just go out here and enjoy this. Constantly checking my camera because it randomly turned off on me. I don't know why. Look at that. That over there is a swallow, a predator type bird with a nasty disposition. It's not quite a hawk, not quite an eagle. Looks somewhat like a seagull by coloration and all that stuff, but it's very much a predator. Just look at that. I'm sure you've heard about swallowtail kites. That's actually where that comes from. That's the reason why a lot of kites are that shape. They like to soar. Usually camp out around the treetops, and look at that. No fear of humans at all. He knows he's the boss. Look at that. This guy. I kid you not, he looks exactly like a seagull until he begins flying. Look at this guy. Hello there, Mr. Bird. Big fat bird. Means he's eating well, which I'm pretty sure in this parts there's all sorts of little, look at this guy, checking me out. All sorts of little, oh, there's another one over there. All sorts of lizards and field mice and snakes probably for him to feast on. And this is a prime habitat for all the things that he likes to eat. And being out there in the trees like this gives him a great vantage point. And as you can see, with the wind that's constantly blowing through this area, soaring birds are just having a blast, that's for sure. Seeing a few ferns along the way, this means that this area is actually flooded every once in a while, because ferns like to, they like wet-ish, not necessarily wet. Like, look at this. So the reason why they're camping out here along the way is because this is a natural floodway. This whole area over here floods with the heavy rains and feeds, because a lot of this over here is wetland species. Not necessarily full-time wet, but usually wet-loving species. There's another broken sign. Mercifully, we're gonna get some shade in this hot climate. Here we could see some river channels along the way. When the rains come, this turns into a major torrent. All of this floods and everything. And naturally, it's not exactly advised to be out and about in the middle of a monsoon. But if you do find yourself in one, and you're compelled to want to get out of said predicament, do keep in mind that all of this is going to be under raging water. Like, I'm talking about certifiably class rapids. Right now it looks so nice and calm, but when the water comes, it's not a place to be. I would actually just seek higher ground, like camp out in the tree or something, and wait for it to subside. Along with the raging water, there's all sorts of nasty that comes out. Ant colonies, specifically fire ants that like to form islands and float about. Obviously alligators, snakes of all kinds. Have to keep that in mind. So this is another place where I've passed by like a bazillion times, but never actually come out this way or stopped here, other than to fly my drone. Look at this. Got a little hunting lodge over there. No doubt sitting over there looking for hogs coming to drink. Okay, how am I gonna do this? I don't want to get my shoes wet. I wonder if I could squeak by over there is this yeah, probably the better. There we go. Yeah, this is one of the contributing channels to the Alafia. The river itself is that away to the east of me. Okay, what do we have here? It says to go that way. Which could mean anything, really. I don't think they've meant that. The signage, even for the horseback riding, isn't all that great. Which, of course, if you're on a horse, doesn't matter, because you're not the one exerting energy, traveling in circles. But the funny thing about this, right? This is a designated horseback riding site, right? And so you would think that there would be a lot of people on horseback. No, not in the slightest. On any typical month, this area, despite being connected to the Alafia, despite being yada yada yada, you'd be lucky to see like 3 people on a horse. For a couple of reasons. First one has to deal with the fact that parking here, if you have a horse, is pretty much impossible, because you can't park your trailer here. And where you can park the trailer with a horse, it's way, way, ways out of here. So it just adds unnecessary mileage. And 2 is where you do park the horse trailer, there are trails over there. So it's kind of like, okay. As you could see, this is groomed over there for something. Wonder if it's somebody's cow pasture or something. But this is Florida for you. Everything that you see around me is very typical for rural, agricultural, middle of nowhere Florida. You got oceans and oceans of sage and all the scrub and brush, sable palms. You see lots and lots of palmetto palms. You see occasional oaks. Very typical for this Florida ecosystem. And quite surprising, having been up and down the state extensively. I would say that unless you're traveling north of I-4 corridor, this is pretty much exactly the same up until you hit Everglades. And to which I have to say, if you thought about, oh hey, let's drive several hours to go and see something different, it's going to be exactly like this. And those of you traveling through the state for recreational purposes, and by that I don't mean Disney, I mean, hiking and sightseeing and all of this, maybe RVing, I would actually advise you to skip I-75 and I-95 and hit the middle roads that are traveling through the state. They're picturesque. You get to see all of this mostly through entirety of your drive. It would be such a shame to miss all of this. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get to the Keys slower, but you get to see all of this. Okay, this grass that's all dried out, that's the good stuff. The name of it eludes me at this moment, but it is native to Florida, and unfortunately it likes to grow where Kogan grass is. So when Kogan grass gets herbicided or whatever, this also suffers. If you come here during the right time of year, all that grass has like a white puffy dandelion sort of fluff on it. It looks gorgeous, especially when the wind blows. It just ripples through acres and acres of it. Checking my camera just in case. Oh, hey, would you look at that? We got our very first blaze. And it's a yellow blaze, which means, in accordance to the map, I need to be making a right-hand turn over here. To go diagonally that's just the fence goes that way, and so does this. Whoever was making those maps, they suck in map making. Because this blaze is supposed to go there, and there's nothing there. But on the other side of this, there should be a parking lot for the hikes that we're going to do probably next week, pending all things. Maybe I'll have to skip that and save it for another time. I got a trip coming up, and I still need to get some things done for the camper. So I may just spend my weekend on that instead. which means may have to do that sometime in August. Yeah, the marker is off. That's what's happening. So, since the map is off, essentially this trail over here, well, we're gonna see parking lot in a bit. Alright, so that's the blue trail. This is the trail that I should have got here on. Meaning that because there's no markage over there, it's just, you know, just lovely. Alright, I'll just there's two ways to look at all of this being wrong. You know, on one hand, it allows you to explore a little bit and have somewhat of an unpredictable factor. But the downside to that is when the trails are wrong like this, it's very easy for people to get lost on the trail. Like, you could be following the trail markers and then completely get lost still. And so many people have to be rescued off the trail. You know, they venture off. They could be like literally on the other side of this tree line over there without having a single clue. About how to get back. So you have to take note of all of this and stay vigilant about where you are, where you go, and where you have to be. Just be spatially aware of everything and constantly check the map. Even if you're following the markers, just constantly check the map. Make sure. And in this particular case, the Old Trails app doesn't give me anything because it doesn't really have a designated thing drawn on it. There's somebody that walked it at some point, but it's the greater outer perimeter that he did, was she. Not all this inside stuff. Guessing right around the corner here should be a parking lot for the trailhead, and the map that's wrong. So that's the grassy parking lot that they were talking about. Alright, continue to have issues with the camera. Or the remote control, I don't know, either or. So that's the grassy parking lot that we're talking about. And there should be a map right about there that is wrong. So this is the trail over here that we're supposed to be doing. It says that the blue trail is 3.8 miles. Anyways, assuming that we're here, we're going to be doing this. And then that. So while I'm here, I'll take a better picture of this. Now that I think about it, if you park your horse trailer here, it's probably a lot more accessible than the other way around. Oh, look, somebody here with the horses. We're gonna let them be. So this is the red trail that we're following. Back out to the sun. I'm tempted to call this a eucalyptus tree, but I'm probably going to be wrong. Off in the background, on the other side of this, on the left-hand side, there's people's homes. This area is called Old Welcome. It's actually severed by the river itself. There's Old Welcome Road, and then it stops, and then the river, and then it continues again. And there is no bridge, by the way. I heard there used to be one about 100 years ago. But because it's no longer there, all the people that have to go from here to there have to go all the way around. Either to take Jamieson Road or 640. Imagine living out here. I don't have any neighbors. Right next to the preserve. The only downside is this area here has a very, how do I say, unwelcoming / very dark reality to it, which I'll save for another video. Alright, so right about here somewhere, there needs to be Okay, now we're still walking. Well, it looks like we're going to be crossing Alafia again, or at least a subsidiary of it. I have to say, despite the fact that it's hot as hell, the wind that's blowing from straight up ahead is a very welcoming gesture. It is a hot wind, very dry wind, but at the very least it provides some breeze, makes it a little bit more tolerable. Okay, so do I go left, do I go right? Which way do I go? Okay, I go that way. This is what we're gonna do when we come back to this area. So we're gonna be making a right. It's kind of interesting to be out here all by your lonesome self. It allows you to just decompress and get things off your chest. If that makes any sense. And maybe it's the monotone nature of grass hitting the boots, or maybe it's the cicadas doing their cicada thing. Maybe it's the wind blowing through the ears, but I just feel far less burdensome being out here. I think it's very unfortunate that we're all so caught up in the world and the runnings of the world that we quite often forget that this is right here in our backyard. All right, so here you might have noticed a complete change in type of landscape. All of a sudden, just boom. And reason being is because this is a flood zone. This is wet species. You start seeing cypress trees. You start seeing river channels and stuff. You start seeing standing water and remnant river channels. Soil is really wet. Oh my goodness, look at this. This soil in the garden. Oh, that would be just a perfect nutrient filled everything. Look at that. Right now it's so quiet and peaceful. Like I said before, when the rain comes, not so much. I think somewhere in the early videos on my now older channel, in my mountain biking videos probably, there may have been a segment where I'm mountain biking right next to the region current, I think, out in Alafia State Park, which is a little further south. So what I'm expecting is to see a pullout with a blue blaze painted on it. Then of course, considering we haven't seen a single blue blaze, I'll be just happy with a pullout, because that will be a marker for me that that's where I need to turn. I don't know if you noticed, but in the angles all around me, the trees are scarred by fire, and that's part of the prescribed controlled burn that they do. See all of this? Oh, would you look at that? We got a blue blaze. I'm surprised. Okay. Onward we go. Off in this field over here, there's a whole bunch of cacti growing. Oh, well, whole bunch over here. So that way I don't have to walk. Look at this. Isn't that something? And they're scattered everywhere. You look off in the background. Look at that everywhere. And I bet you if you come here at the right time of day, there's very pretty flowers that bloom off of them. All colors. White, pink, yellow. Oh, look, somebody else's house over here. Look at that. Ooh, there's gonna be a toasty one. I see what lack of blue paint along the initial trail is evident, because what they've done is they used all of it on this side and simply ran out of paint to paint on the south side of the trail. Because here I've just seen like 6 or 7 markers in the span of 150 feet or so. If I'm not mistaken, this over here is called lead tree. I could be wrong. Oh, it's getting hot. Hot, hot, hot. The Florida climate is just something for, look at this. We've gone from complete cloud coverage to blue skies with beautiful clouds and everything. It changes by the minute. Well, I have to say it was absolutely the right call for me to wear my protective gear, the hat and the top. Whoa, careful. Absolutely. Because otherwise this would have been a very, very gnarly adventure. Being out in full sun like that when it's hot as hell. Let's see. Says 88 feels like 100. 70% humidity. There you go, guys. See all the sacrifices I do for this channel. Now, if this was, say, in November, hiking out here would be absolute pleasure. You know, like January, February, in the middle of Florida winter, when it's like 75 degrees or so, low humidity and everything. But summertime, ooh, especially mid to late July, August, it's a completely different experience, that's for sure. This is really pretty. Just look across. All this almost like it's dill of sorts. Look at that, that same house, all of this is their backyard. Unbelievable. Now, they also have a story. To get to their house, you don't go to the old Welcome Road, you go to the Jameson Road, the road filled with rich people. And so, some of the more, I guess, opulent of the rich, they found themselves a nice little nook. There's a road that goes from that house there-ish to the Jameson Road, and there's a couple of homes like this that are like legit covered by preserve on all sides, 360 degrees, meaning that they don't have any neighbors. Now that's living right there. Gonna take a little quick break in the shade. Guys, you ain't gonna believe, the difference between being in the shade on a day like this and being out in the sun. Easily 20 degrees, easily, if not more. You just feel like a human being in the shade. Uh-oh! This is the second time I see that snake, meaning that kind of snake. The first time was, I don't know, like 10 years ago. Scared the bejesus out of me. They get really big. This is called rat snake, which in my opinion is the wrong name for it, because it really should be called big ass snake that scares the bejesus out of you snake. And that was still a baby, actually. They grow. The one that I've seen, the fully grown one, it must have been I don't know, like 10 feet long or so. Really fat, almost like a python. They're characterized by the tan beige coloration, as you've seen, and usually they have a black line that kind of follows their body, about half of their body actually. And apparently they're somewhat like the king snake of sorts, or I'm tempted to say king cobra, but really not. That's a wrong kind of a comparison. But they're called rat snakes. So, second time in like 10 years or so. I think first time I've seen it was in 2010 maybe? 2011? Maybe 2010. Another blue blaze. So it means we're heading the right way. But then it gets kind of finicky because at some point up ahead it splits into like 4 different blue trails. So I have to stick to the right one. I'll have to check the map again and try and make sense of it. Crossing into a bit of a dangerous threshold. I'm noticing a severe reduction in how much I sweat, and that's a bad thing. It is critical to be in tip-top shape. Alright, I am guessing this is that first split that I was supposed to be vigilant about. So we're gonna check the map just to make sure. It's a catch-22 really, because if I go Trying to figure out if I go there, that's where I've already been. But if I go straight, ooh, nice. There's that breeze again. If you notice, off in the horizon, all around me, clouds are rolling in. And so what happens with breezes like that is, if you look back this way, where everything is blue, it's stable air, and everything just kind of freezes in time. And then you have a squall that comes through, which Florida is famous for. You got those bands that are coming off either the Gulf or the ocean, either or. This over there comes from the ocean side. And they're preceded by really, really strong winds, followed by a thunderstorm cloud of sorts, with all sorts of nasty lightning and stuff like that. And then it's quiet again until the next storm comes. And that's the reason why it wasn't blowing wind anymore, because one came through, blew right over us, and then it was quiet, and here comes another one. So this road, if I understand the map correctly, oh, there's a blue blaze, should get us to the backside of some residential parcels or something along those lines, and then loop back on the other side of that tree line back to the parking lot. And that way, we'll get to cover pretty much entirety of the blue trail, saving us red and yellow for the next time. There's a blue marker again. So I think what happened was this trail system that's out here in this preserve just keeps changing trails every once in a while, and they never pressure wash the old markers off the trail, making it that much more difficult to figure out where it is that you're supposed to be. Like right now. That's the reason why I'm turning to Google Maps. Because at least that way I get some semblance of where in the world is Carmen San Diego. This is dead. Ooh. The wind is gone. I guess it doesn't help that right now it's about 11:30 in the morning and the sun is about to start peaking. That's kind of the reason why I do those 3-hour hikes from like 9 to 12, because between 12 and 4 it turns from, oh my gosh, it's hot, to somebody call the ambulance. So winter time, that's a different story. Summertime, really have to watch out for that sun. It gets you. It's really easy to be overheated, end up with a heat stroke, heat exhaustion, that sort of stuff. So if you noticed, I haven't made a lot of compliments on this hiking trail. Partly because this really is, I'm so used to seeing this that I can't be like wooing dazed by it. But to somebody that has never been to Florida, or has been to Florida but never hiked, this might come as a interesting surprise. But I spent enough years in the wilderness like this, hiking, mountain biking and stuff, flying drones. So this is very typical for what you see. Look at that funky looking tree over there. I'm surprised there's not a whole bunch of vultures over there sitting, staring back at me. But it has that interesting vibe of there should be vultures sitting on top of a tree. Here, coming back on residential property again. Trail parallels some parcels. Look at that, those guys over here have a horse farm and access to horse trails, all in the same go. Wow. Look at that. That's like living the dream of a person with a horse. You don't get that a lot. There's a curious horse looking at me. It's like, what this guy's doing? I gotta say, it probably tremendously sucks to be a horse in this weather, in this heat, out in full sun like that. But that doesn't deter them from being out in the sun like this. You know, cows are smarter in that sense. Right about now, they're gonna be camping out under the tree shade. Horses, not so much. Maybe they're more tolerant to the heat. Who knows? It says Red Fox Stables. Come on, gnats, go away. This is a troubling sign because I'm coming up to where I'm supposed to be, but that's not quite it. I guess they made two entrances look identical. But yeah, this road over here is how those rich people get to that fancy house, surrounded by preserve on all sides. That's what you get for having bazillions of dollars. You could have your pick of the land to suit your liking. I'm expecting the trail to turn. Somewhere. Because that would be just kind of silly if it stops here. Because I'm supposed to be there. Oh, there we go. Makes sense. stop here for a second. All right. One word with the adventure. Sweat was getting into my eyes. Had to rectify the issue. Back to wilderness again. Wow, well that's interesting. This tree here fell, and a whole bunch of other trees are growing out of that whole tree thing. And that tree is still alive, by the way. Oh, deer. Look at that. Watch out for another one. Usually travel in packs. Come on, deer, come back. I want to show you to the people. You know, the interesting thing is, when I was mountain biking, oh, look at that, 1, 2, 3 in the background. There were far more people friendly. Those ones over here, not so much. Bastards. Come back. Told you they travel in packs. Now we just got to see 4 deer. This is just perfect habitat for them. And unlike in the great Northeast, where deer are like everywhere, not afraid of people and constantly get hit by cars, here, deer are completely the opposite. They don't get hit by cars, thankfully. And, well, take that back. Occasionally they do. But considering there's not a lot of them, like up north, it's a far rarer sight. On the roads, I'd maybe see like 2 per year get hit by cars. But they camp out in places like this where it's nothing but wilderness. And this is just perfect for them. It has everything. Water, grass, shade, sunlight. What else do they need? up somebody else's property again. I'm guessing there's a pond over there of sorts. So one thing I haven't covered is the last couple of hikes have been particularly difficult for me because I just realized what this is about. I'm on the back side of a firing range. It's been particularly difficult for me because my accident injuries are acting up. So adventures. It's such a shame to look at somebody's property like that, right? Completely tore up and run down. They get to miss all of this beautiful backdrop by having all of this. But I guess it's their choice. If I had property like this, I'd keep it in tip-top shape. Nicely groomed and none of this stuff over here. Somebody has been sneaking in and out. Maybe a dog, maybe a coyote, maybe something like a hog. Oop. Gotta keep drinking. Now, if you notice, once again, aside from a very brief interruption to deal with the camera twice, I pretty much never stopped all through this hike. And reason being is if you walk your own pace, the whole hiking thing becomes completely different experience. Ah, look at this. That is the trail we're supposed to be taking to get to the yellow and all of that. Interesting. Well, this is just splendid. I just realized why none of the trails were making any sense whatsoever. Because there's two completely different hiking systems out here. That's why. Which is kind of sad, because this trail isn't marked. I wonder if after I get there, it is that rotted out, really gnarly looking trail that I didn't take. So I may actually have to come back here. Maybe. Maybe not. It's all about the same. Either way, the map is wrong, even if I launched at the wrong spot. The colors on the map start from this parking lot, but the trail itself starts in a completely different place. But yet, here we could see blue markers. I don't know, whoever made the map obviously screwed up. Because the physical map is not overlaid properly with the aerial behind it. And roads are similar, but shifted. And that's why I keep telling you guys to spend a lot of time thinking about where you're going and where you're supposed to be, and think about how it all ties into being vigilant of where you are at any given time while hiking. Here's another house over there. Look at it. And up on the hill, overlooking the preserve, surrounded by nasty looking pile of dirt. Here's an interesting factoid for you. If you look this way, all of this was prescribed controlled burned. You could see evidence in the trees and other things that burned, and then after it all burned, all of this started coming through. Shows you the importance of having prescribed burns. Here's a blue blaze. And another one. Here's another one. Another one over there. Look at that. It's like somebody said, oh, we forgot to put the blazes up. What about there? There's one toppled over. The hilarious thing is I'm supposed to be like there in my truck. I've been zigging and zagging all around it. Wouldn't be surprised if I'm... Yep. It's leading me astray. That's what it's doing. Look at this. Look at this. It's like they said, oh, we forgot the blue paint. But in the area where it was most important, it was nowhere to be found. Well, I suppose I could only do so much. Just follow the markers. Essentially, the reason why I can't go there is because there's private property and the trails that are there, they don't lead back to the parking lot. Which is why I'm doing the zig and zag exercise. But this is the road that I should have been on right off the get-go. When I said we're gonna do it in reverse, this was the original path. Obviously unmarked. Look at this, so interesting. This is very typical for Florida. White sand, sugar sand as they call it. This is pretty much what Florida is made of. Which is the reason why you start seeing pines all over the place, because nothing else grows on it. And inevitably, with time, other things come through. What tends to happen is pines decay and drop branches and needles and stuff. It all starts trapping nutrients, and then a tree like this comes in. The trees start dropping leaves, turning into detritus, giving birth to essentially a little bit of soil, if you want to call it that. Like anywhere up here, right underneath of this, there's really no soil to speak of. But then the reason why you start seeing trees being more and more dense is because we're coming up on the river channel, which brings sediments and all that stuff. So it's all natural cycle for you guys right here in the real time. Here's another marker. See, that's what I was talking about with respect to natural cycle. I've made a bit of a mistake this morning. I just like yesterday during the previous hike, I went in on empty stomach. The only difference is that yesterday, well, the day before, I had a really nice dinner. And then yesterday, I didn't have much of a dinner. Whoa, look at that. Beautiful. Other than a sandwich. And so today I could feel growling in my tummy, as they say. Look at that. Wow. What a change of scenery for you, huh? And again, look at this. We got, if I'm not mistaken, the actual name for this is Cheeto Branch, if I'm not mistaken, but I've been wrong before. And here, just to get you an idea, for the marker, they wouldn't have made a 5-foot marker if it wasn't for nothing. Three, 4. So just kind of gets you an idea of where the water is. Whoop! Don't want to get my shoes wet if I don't have to. Such a weird experience. It's like you drop in this little nuke and it's like a pocket of nothing but sheer humidity. It's so thick that you could, like, just by standing there, I went from being completely dry to soaking wet. How crazy is that? And so we got another blue marker. That is just absolutely insane. I mean, we are not anywhere near where we're supposed to be. Like, not even in the same ballpark. Crazy. Like, legitimately not in the same universe. So why they have blue markers here, I have no idea. See, this is why people get lost, like I mentioned previously. And it could be scary, especially if you're tired, exhausted, out of water, hungry. There's thunderstorm looming, right? You know, people on forums said that there's trails, you know, they split and merge and stuff, but this is just beyond acceptable, really. Especially with a thunderstorm that's rolling in. All around me, you could start seeing thunderstorms forming. So my goal is to get out of here ASAP. I think this this trail might turn into a substantially longer trail. It says that the blue loop is 3.8 miles. I guarantee you, I've already walked like 6 or 7. I mean, I don't mind, but still, this is kind of annoying. And here, just like this, blazes are gone. Oh, there's another one. Although painted in the wrong place, but still. My truck is there-ish somewhere, which makes this whole circus even funnier because I'm like traveling in completely different opposite direction. Alright. So what does this mean? Let's see if we could recognize this. Wow. This is really quite something, isn't it? Alright, well, just a quick update. We have been on this trail before. Unless, of course, this is a wrongly marked trail. We should have come this way. Yep. Wow. Okay, so this up here is the place where I said previously this is the trail that I should have come on. And if I went this way, we'd have to go and walk the fence line. You know what? We're just gonna say screw it. I got places to be, things to do, and stuff. So I'm just gonna start cutting corners. If I can. Problem is there's wilderness everywhere, so it's not like you could just damn it. Alright, let's do it the right way. Disappointing. That's what that is. Somewhat disappointing. And the reason why it's disappointing is because the designated parking lot. Whoa, 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 dogs! Shoo! Here, pup. Here, pup. you. Be careful. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good.
You know what? He's barking at the hat. He doesn't like hats.
I guess that explains that.
Oh, good to get out and sweat a little bit.
You know, I've been sweating for about 9 miles now.
Yeah? Wow, that's a good walk.
That's a hike.
Oh, yes. My goal is to finally make it back to the parking lot.
Come on, boy.
All right. Here, pups. I think I'm gonna pass you and just keep going.
Oh, yeah.
I said I'm gonna pass you guys. Just keep going.
You're doing this yellow loop?
I've been trying to do the blue loop.
Okay.
I ended up doing blue and then part of yellow and red.
All right.
But the problem is the map and the parking lot is in the wrong place for the blue.
It does seem a little weird, yeah.
So
I know this yellow loop is about 2.5 miles.
yeah, but the yellow loop gets you to the wrong parking lot. I'm off Jamieson,
Oh, you are? Okay.
and
Yeah,
so
we're off Old Welcome.
and so I got close to my truck, but then not so much.
Redirected?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
have a good one. Never know what you're gonna run into. Get eaten by a pack of angry dogs along the way. But yes, as I was saying before the dogs interrupted me, the designated parking lot for this hike is in the wrong place to where the hike actually begins. And the map of the hike is wrong because in places it assumes that it starts here, in other places it assumes that it starts. So when all of that is put together, because a lot of those roads that are similar, whoever made the map just used the wrong roads and the wrong parking lot. And that's why I'm in this predicament. Which I guess my, theoretically, if I would have made the decision back then, once we got to the road where I made that right turn, I could have actually just walked on asphalt for about, I don't know, quarter mile or so and got back to my truck on the road rather than through all of this. Because this unnecessarily added easily another, I don't know, 2 miles, 3 miles to my hike. It would be interesting to see how I'm doing with respect to the distance. Let's see, Mr. Phone. Where's the... If I could find the app in my delivery state of health. Ever since they've changed the app, it's all weird. Highlights, steps. I don't need steps. I need miles. Activity. 4. Okay, so it says that as of 12:39, I've walked for 4 miles, but this thing is always late and never updates properly. So I'm guessing once it does update, it will probably make it like a 9-mile hike altogether. Careful. Because essentially what I'm doing now is I'm double backing on the original hiking trail. Ever heard of a dog that doesn't like hats? That's a first for me, that's for sure. Should be coming up across the river crossing in just a smidgen. Get a little bit of a shade for a couple of minutes. And reprieve from the heat. In case you're wondering why is this thing on? Yeah, it's on. Yeah, in case you're wondering why there's not a lot of tree coverage, well, that's a story in itself. I'm sure you guys heard about deforestation and logging and all that stuff. And while I don't want to turn this channel into a bit of a tree hugger sort of thing, this does prove a point. In the 1800s and early 1900s, the whole thing about logging is they were just clear cutting everything, right? Right. So the result of clear cutting everything was the fact that a lot of the forests were lost. Right? And we got to the point where the government said, whoa, this isn't good. And so they started setting land for preservation. You know, that's where you get the whole Teddy Roosevelt and the teddy bear and that whole thing. That's what it's all about, really. And to that extent, a lot of that land would then be converted into either cropland or some form of agricultural use, like orange trees, which Florida has lost like 80% of its citrus and projected to lose pretty much all of it because of the Chinese fungus bug thingamajig. or cow pastures, or more recently, I'm guessing, residential communities. And that's the reason why you don't see a lot of forest in Florida. When you look on the map, quite often with absolute horror, every time Google Maps updates its imagery, a little part of me dies on the inside, because every single week, right, every single week, something like another 150 homes, I'm talking about new homes, I'm not talking about old ones, 150 homes are sold to somebody to live in. New homes. That is absolutely crazy. If you look at the map, if you have access, look at the map of, say, Newport Richey, Florida, we're talking about north of St. Petersburg, through, say, Naples, talking about southwest Florida, and compare, let's say, 2019 versus, say, 2007, it will give you a bit of a heart attack, because they just clear cut everything they can, just legitimately everything. And every time I take the roads, you know, I live out in the boonies, so I don't go out into the civilization as much as I used to. And so now, every time I have to go there, I have no idea where I'm at. Because every single street, every single road, every single corner looks completely different. If there's no forest for them to clear cut, they buy out popular, I guess, landmarks like a gas station or maybe dilapidated store, somebody's goat farm, and turn that into a new subdivision. So when you're driving on the road, you have no idea where you are. And that's the reason why there's no trees. So I think it's a tremendous resource to waste. And thankfully, you know, we have Florida Forever preservation going on for the most part. But even then, you never know what's going to happen, because like, for example, this is owned by Southwest Florida Wildlife Management District, SWIFMUD for short. And SWIFMUD has been known to buy properties for so-called preservation, only to then sell them to the people who then clear cut it and turn it into a subdivision. So, to that extent, it's quite something, isn't it? All right. So, should go without saying, with all the loop-to-loops we've been doing, this is setting quite unnecessary, to me, arrangement in which, quite unfortunately, a thunderstorm is rolling in. And so the longer I'm out here, the worse it is. Because all those black clouds, that's 2-inch rain straight up ahead. Okay, well, at least we're on a bit of a final stretch, I'm guessing. But still, this is a real life, real time example of just how easy it is to follow the trail. And I don't want to say that I got lost, because I was in full control entirely. But still, somebody who had a lapse in judgment, wasn't paying attention. This is it. With all the roads that are cutting to and from, got a little bit of a breeze, thankfully. Keep me a little bit cooler. I am sincerely hoping that that tree line is the end of the trip, because that ominous thunderstorm is getting... The thing is, it's not even the fact that it's there. It's the fact that, if you notice, it's been blowing wind, and so it gets carried here a lot sooner than otherwise. And the way it works in Florida is, a lot of our thunderstorms, they're carried by the wind and doesn't rain, and then it stops in one place and rains like crazy. So if you happen to be in the place where it stops, it turns into a freak light show and 60-mile-an-hour wind and trees bending in half. But yet, if you're several feet that way, nothing happens, which is why it's not uncommon in Florida to hear the following saying: it will rain cats and dogs on your front porch, but not your backyard. I've seen that happen all too many times. Like yesterday, it rained everywhere except where my house was. Now I gotta keep going. Uh-oh. I recognize the sign. So last time took the sign and went that way. We're still far from the parking lot, guys. Gotta keep the spirits up, right? Right. Gonna take a brief pause here to look at the map. You know what I see? I see an electrical wire. It means that I should be seeing my truck in just a little bit. There it is. So what have we learned today, guys? Number one, don't trust Hillsborough County trail marking system. Don't trust Hillsborough County trail maps. And don't trust Hillsborough County designated parking lots, because all three are going to be fundamentally and profoundly wrong. Especially, like here's a good example. Still kind of ways out, right? But there's the hiking, marker, and talking about being 6 feet away from each other, blah, blah, blah. Right, the big sign, the parking lot, the whole 9 yards. Whereas the area where the trail allegedly starts doesn't have anything. It's just a turn on the road. That's the weird thing about it. Well, I hope this was somewhat educational for everybody. And I'll catch you guys on the next hike. Thank you for tuning in.